attack. And to win this competition outright, to win the North American Finals, they must win on the attack right now. If our defense wins again, aka a different team, aka the Avengers, we will go to game 3, which will be a different map, and then we'll get to see who gets to select if they want to play attack, defense, pick the map, or anything in between. It's gonna be a lot of fun. We'll break it all down if we get there. So Vivid, we're headed into Trainwreck, and your prediction was what? The Avengers hold?
Yeah, I think the defenders are going to hold this one, right? The Avengers, I think we're going to have 1-1. They looked so good on the attack. The defensive side of things, I expect nothing less out of them. I think they can easily replicate what the Squirtle squad was able to pull off right there. But then again, Squirtle squad have shown before that they are a team that is to be reckoned with. A thing that is actually in the back of my mind right now, right? We see how good the Squirtle squad is with the vehicles. On the attack of Trainwreck, you start with a vehicle, so that momentum might start off very, very early for our attackers. We'll have to see if they can use that to go ahead and steamroll through some of these sectors. And we're in.
Yeah, we got a couple ATVs, and we got a tank on the back line as we start things off here on point A. Not a point that usually teams are able to hold for very long. As much as we're hyping up the Squirtle squad and their win that they just got, we've got to remember there is this weird, I don't know, fear in the back of my mind. Gotta remember, they got held on point A, it cracked. You never know.
Yeah, I'm sure they're thinking about it a little bit as well. Just kidding, right? We're in a competition. These guys are stone cold. They don't even remember what they had for dinner yesterday, let alone semifinals last weekend. And this is kind of a weird one because I'm seeing a bunch of kills kind of go off in the feed, but there's still 180 tickets, right? So those reses are coming through and proving to be very valuable right off the rip.
Yeah, that's a lot of bodies hitting the ground that aren't headed back to the respawn screen, getting picked up quite quickly to have full lives. Nobody actually fulled yet. Like we've seen, both sides really prioritizing revives. And frankly, I think, you know, the thing that we talked about with Victory Night is that you have to. If you're not prioritizing revives, what are you doing? You only have 180 instead of the like 300 some odd that you get in a normal attack and defense. With a big lobby, of course, there's a few more players on the map when you do that. Victory Night is only 20v20, but quickly speaking of Victory Unite here, one of the other notes that we had during the semifinals was that Zinseer on the part of squad of Zindicate was actually elected to be commander, did the drafting of teams, and then gave away the commander to Exterminia, part of the Squirtle squad, because they wanted somebody that could speak both of the languages or all of the languages represented amongst their entire team of 20 players, which I think is a really cool thing. And Exterminia has actually maintained the commander position for this overall roster as well, just confirmed it in Discord. So watch out for that player to see how they're actually commanding the troops so that Wormy and the Syndicate can fly around the map.
Awesome to hear that there's some teamwork kind of going on there to make sure that the commander is in the hands of the rightful person there. And there's actually been a huge kind of strategy difference that's been pretty blaringly obvious, right? The Squirtle squad, when they were on the defense of Sector A, like I talked about, they wanted that concrete building, that concrete slab that was kind of elevated on the right side if you are on the attack side of things. And the Avengers kind of didn't really care about it. They attacked on the opposite side of things. You know, Avengers, now that they're on the defense, they didn't play for that building at all either. And Squirtle squad kind of attacked from that side, took that building over. And once they had enough, you know, soldiers over there and people over there towards that building, they kind of called in a synchronized flood onto the point right now. So we're kind of seeing the repercussions of that right now. But I cannot lie, as it currently stands, this is seemingly a longer defense than we saw in game number 1. The Avengers are looking mighty good at fending this one off.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting strategy. They kind of backed off of the point, and then once the point started getting ticked down, that's when everybody flooded together as a unit. So as a tank takes a couple shots here, it's just going to keep shelling from a distance. That is Asta yet again, by the way, in the tank. I think this is pretty traditional flow that they've decided upon. Mr. Wormy's in here, the Syndicate. We know that Wormy's going to go crazy if he gets a tank destroyer, but the tank itself is being left to Asta, and Asta is getting some nice value shelling the point.
This is incredible stuff right there, right? As we were kind of looking over the point, I saw somehow, I think there was like a respawn beacon out or somebody, a part of the Syndicate, which is Mr. Wormy, Zinseer, Chick Chick Boom, and Randy Savage. They kind of spawned in behind. This is a flank coming in right now. Whoever got back there for this squad and spawned in, all 4 of them, just got so much value and removing a lot of the defenders right there. Mr. Wormy squad, they don't have that vehicle this time around, but proving once again to be a very valuable squad on the side of Squirtle Squad.
Yeah, great shout. A lot of our players trying to be individual heroes. Anytime you can get a multi-kill as an individual on one life, it's a lot of value for your team. However, as much as we're seeing some big moments, that kill feed is all green, man. Bunny Quid putting up a couple 2 or 3 piece there on the point. It looks like just maybe one squad from the attack that's actually able to find some footing around the point to keep it in contention, and there it is. The squad on the point seeing a ton of value, finally answering back as more shells come raining down from our tank. Finally, we're in the neutral zone.
Yeah, I think now that the attack side has kind of gotten to a certain point, it's going to be very hard for the defenders to kind of get back into this one and go ahead and defend it. And, you know, as I'm saying that, being proven wrong quite a few times while watching these Warfare tournaments, the defense is actually making a very strong foothold towards this objective once again. I'm not sure how you're getting so many spawns so close to this point, right? It looked like they were all kind of running in. It looks like they had lost that space, but no, they're actually close enough. Must have been some high-value respawn beacons.
Yeah, we've already got our first urgent deployment time being activated here in this game, which is pretty interesting strategy to go ahead and burn this here. You allow to quickly spawn onto this point as fast as humanly possible. I would expect that's from the attack. There's a chance the defense is burning it here on point A as well. They feel like they can maybe completely retake this point right now. It's looking like that is the case. A sole squad actually on the point for the attack. Not able to find really anything for it. But this is a huge flank actually from Zen. That's a triple and maybe more if he can get the reload off. And he is able to. There's a quad. Can I have another one? Sincere putting on a show for us right now. That is 5 in a row on main. Very well done to clear out the point nearly as an individual. With a bit of backup, a hero play proving to be an option and an opportunity for the attack to finally find some ground. Holy cow.
I mean, just once again, the squad, they just keep finding that position to kind of come in from the flank. I'm not sure how they're getting over there, and nobody on the defensive side of things is kind of stopping them. And finally does go down, but the damage, you got to imagine, is already done. The attack, though, it seems thwarted, right? Look at this. The capture is going back in favor of the defense, and we're kind of approaching that threshold for where the tickets expended onto Sector A here, it'll start to hurt you for the rest of the game if they end up capturing it at all.
I'm not trying to put the curse in the air, but my mind keeps going back to crack point A in the semifinals. Don't do it to me. We gotta find an opening. Zinser's gonna have to do it again. Was the hero for a moment, but only a moment. Because you're right, the defense has completely retaken this point. The Avengers are in final form.
Yeah, I think for me, Asta has to do something a little bit different on the tank. Again, you want to keep the tank safe. You don't want to go ahead and push in. You want to stay in those hills towards where you're spawning because you feel like you do get enough value towards this point to where you should be able to capture it because you're just constantly raining in missiles. But I think we're at 120 tickets. We've got to capture A soon. Listen, you're either going to lose it or you're going to, get involved with a tank at this point. I feel like we've got to get a different position with that tank, kind of similar to how we see Mr. Wormy get involved. And yeah, there's Mr. Wormy. Okay, never mind. We're probably gonna capture this soon now.
Well, this is the name of the game, man. If you can rack up enough score to get the vehicles you need to make a play, both vehicles now coming in and just start blasting down range through some of these small sight lines, it's gonna open things up quite dramatically. You see a couple different names getting involved. That Cedo Lover actually picking up, I think that was 4 probably inside the tank with Asta as they work together to try to clear out this point. They're seeing some nice value, but the defense is doing a really good job of getting their revives as well. They're able to get to this point way quicker than they should for a point A, and they still have a foothold here, even though they're losing a lot of bodies to the ground. They're not losing a lot of bodies to the respawn screen.
I mean, what is happening right here? It looked like they had such a good push. There were so many kills going off in the feed from the vehicles, and then we kind of panned out right there, and there was just nobody on the attack side anywhere near the point. This is, again, this is going to hurt Squirtle squad, you know, even if they end up capturing A here, they have already kind of dipped into the tickets that they should be using towards B and the further sectors right now. But I'm not even necessarily worried about the amount of tickets I'll have for that. I'm worried about whether or not they're going to capture A at all.
Yeah, again, the Avengers have felt like a well-oiled machine on just about every single moment, besides maybe a blip in their timeline of success, which was C1 last map. It's their first loss they've ever seen on main. But right now, they look like the final form Avengers that we've been seeing throughout the course of these last couple weeks of competition. Nearly infallible. They've maintained control even in dire circumstances. Now, I have seen so many kills go to the side of the attack. This has got to be the opening that they need, right? You've got to expect it.
I mean, yeah, finally, it looks like there's like almost no defenders left. And, you know, the Viren's going to be dashing in right now, trying to make a last-ditch effort play. But I think a little bit of BM classic. We need that. We need that. Yeah, finally getting a foothold towards the A objective here. It looks like they are going to be able to capture. I do see a lot of, you know, defensemen kind of jumping into the point at the last second there. But yeah, they're not going to be able to, you know, defend it all for any longer. And yeah, look at that, Goose. Supposed to have 180, or at max you can have 180 going into B. They're at 150, so yeah, already down 30.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation. It's like, it's not the end of the world, but 30 lives could make or break your game. It really depends now. They have no more room for error. They burned all of it in point A. Going into point B, they have to cap very, very quickly. If you have any error at any slow point in point B, you're going to be punished for it now because you don't have those extra lives as a buffer. Again, we traditionally say if you're going in with max points, then you really don't want to dip below 120 lives. Well, you're starting only with 150. So you got to capture point B in 30 lives if you want to go into point C1 and C2, which we know to be some of the hardest, with your full lives, so you even have a chance to capture D1 and D2, which again, you need nearly full lives to do. So a lot of kind of macro math, if you will. The answer is you better get a move on. You gotta capture B ASAP.
Look at the storm from the Squirtle squad up the right side, right? One of the criticisms that I had in the last game, right, where Squirtle squad was defending, they didn't really play the hill in front of B. And as you can see, a little bit of difference right here. The Avengers are actually playing that hill, but maybe we can see why they didn't play that hill, because the Squirtle squad realized that, hey, listen, they're playing that hill. We can just run up this right side, get onto the bridge, and, you know, you got to favor this position a little bit more than the hill because you're right above the point. You've got the high ground.
Yeah, no, I really like this play from the Squirtle squad. A very well coordinated effort. We're criticizing their coordination as well. And it's nearly perfect to get onto the high ground here and be able to play over the top on this bridge. The battle for the bridge is one of my favorite positions on this map, frankly. A very fun one to play for if done correctly. So well done to get up here. Now it's a matter of what you do with this high ground.
Yeah, they do have to work their way down at some point. I feel like I would be a little bit uncomfortable if I was on the defense right here, right? It would just feels like you've lost so much instantly after kind of putting up a great defense onto A right there, as the hack is not going to be, hey, don't bring your little iPad to a gunfight. And as I say that, he's going to be going into the smoke and not being found right there, as Warhawk going to be playing the Glock. And wow, okay, you know, do bring your iPad to a gunfight.
That was such a funny sequence. I love that we have the observer POV where we can see through the smoke, because these players are waffling trying to figure out where the heck these people are. Need some more Luna arrows, I guess. Good grief. A lot of smoke as per the usual to cover some of these sight lines. Without usual kind of physical cover, you need that visual cover to be able to make plays and outplay your opponent. That's exactly what Squirtle Squad is trying to do up on the high ground. I haven't seen a ton of value from the high ground yet. They've got a couple solos trying to play down on the low side just to put some pressure on the point. But right now, it's just a battle for the high ground that they're losing.
I'm not really sure how they're losing either, right? It looked like Mr. Wormy was actually on the other side of the bridge, right? Obviously, we see the attackers. They're kind of on the attacking side's right side of the bridge. And it looked like Mr. Wormy was using the tank destroyer on the left side. And it looked like they had a lot of ground kind of claimed. But yeah, I'm not sure. The bridge is still being fought for, not necessarily the point. And yeah, you saw Mr. Wormy went down in the tank destroyer off to the left there.
Yeah, Wormy down the tank destroyer means our only attacking vehicle right now that we can see, at least for a moment, is going to be that tank that we've had since the beginning of the game, who again is playing kind of back shelling or almost artillery strikes from a distance to make sure they stay alive. Not a crazy amount of value, but some. You're going to need it for the future points, but here's a quick look. That high ground position now in trouble. The tank really low health. It looks like we've got a couple more vehicles coming in on the backside, though. As we dwindle down, our tank goes down the defense. Well-timed, well-executed. A couple of AT-4s and a tank destroyer are certainly going to take down our starting tank for the attackers.
Yeah, I mean, the attack is, you know, they're doing a good job, in my opinion, of getting to solid positions. They, you know, they've had vehicle economy, but just in terms of maybe coordinating a push onto the point with enough people to justify a solid attack has seemingly been the weakness over the course of just Sector A and B already. So we'll have to see if they can kind of turn it around and actually go ahead and capture this one before they do lose out on too many more tickets.
It's a fun little bout there around the AA gun. Nice little solo play from one of our defenders to take out the gun that was shooting at their vehicles. We're seeing a pretty wide variety of operator choices as per the usual. Of course, several stingers. You got to play for the revives, but a couple hack claws as well to get some value through the smokes, be able to hunt down your prey. The defense now set up on low side. They're still attacking high ground. They're making it difficult for a full push of an entire team to come from high, but they're prioritizing staying on the point, and I think this is the right play for now. And we have knocked down our attack to below 120 lives, so overall a success. That buffer that you need going into C1, C2 will not be had by the attackers. They've got to get on this point ASAP. They're going to have a very difficult time capturing the next 4 points.
Man, I've been kind of keeping an eye on the kill feed, and, you know, the Syndicate, which is Mr. Wormy's squad and co, they did kind of get that similar play off once again, where they got behind enemy lines, right? They all kind of spawned in behind, and Mr. Wormy using the bow was picking off multiple people, and, you know, after he did that, he finally got involved onto the point. I feel like maybe that's what we're missing as well. You know, we've seen a lot of value from the Syndicate squad in terms of, you know, vehicle play and getting those flanks in, but in terms of actually getting on the point, I feel like that team, or that squad, has been a little bit lackluster. And, you know, as I'm critiquing the entire team for kind of getting bodies on the point, we should see them kind of get involved a little bit more as well. So good to see them kind of, you know, filing in towards the point, and, you know, the efforts of the attack once again, it's going to be thwarted. The Avengers on defense are just looking lock tight.
Yeah, very well done thus far. We are finally seeing our point B go into neutral zone and even into the attacker's favor by a slight margin. There's still a lot of defenders still on the point. I will say this tank has now got great value over the top, not only with the machine gunner, but also the tank shelling coming in from a distance. And now you're seeing the attackers. They found their footing. Here's their push. It is all red in the kill feed. They have lined them all up and they've knocked them all down, and they're going to take B out of nowhere. 152 going into the next round. Is it enough for C1 and C2? Maybe just barely. It wouldn't have been actually enough for the Avengers last round. They needed all 180 nearly. They needed 160 to take both C1 and C2. Let's see how long it takes the Squirtle squad.
Love that shot right there. As soon as they captured B, right, it's kind of like I blinked, and then all of a sudden the attack had like 4 vehicles up. So the momentum that they're going to have rolling towards this C sector is going to be a little bit worrisome, because, again, look at this. The cavalry on the right side of the map. There's 4 vehicles about to push towards C2 right now, and there's a lone tank destroyer over there that is going to have to fend off all of these vehicles. You got to imagine right now, the Squirtle squad does look like they have what it takes to potentially get some early momentum towards C.
Yeah, it looks like they're actually pushing for C2 first, as they swing around this kind of low right side, and already some nice value coming in with the vehicles. It does look like the defense now have 2 and make it 1. A vehicle cut down. Asta finding great value there in the distance. Will probably lose their life for it, but we take those trades when we have the vehicle advantage, especially if there's somebody else to follow up on it, but it doesn't look like there is. Unfortunately, that last vehicle of the defense will not be cut down. Squirtle squad with an advantage, but not a massive one anymore.
Yeah, I think that was a win for the defense for sure, right? They look like a 4-on-2 vehicle attack on that right side over there, and it looks like, you know, 3 of the vehicles end up being destroyed for just 1 of the defense side. So definitely a win there for the Avengers. And as I say that, man, the Squirtle squad just does such a good job with their score management, because every single time we feel like they've lost a vehicle, they just bring another one back, right? I can see off in the distance, look like Mr. Wormy is yet again in a tank destroyer.
Yeah, and this is one of the things too that you think about warfare and you think about public matches. The guided missile is a public match hero. It is like the best thing you can call in. It's
I love it.
Satisfying thing you can do, but it costs a ton of points. Even the artillery barrages are decently expensive. Now these vehicles, they rack up and score. The more you call in, the more expensive vehicles will be. But these teams know for us to win, especially a coordinated customs like this, a tournament, we have to have vehicles. We can't be saving up for these, I don't know, we'll call them flashy score streaks or support systems that you can call in. So they're going to be prioritizing vehicles every single time. And they also can coordinate who gets in the vehicle. So it's not just Wormy's squad calling in the vehicles and then getting in their own. As we do see a nice AT4 takedown from the Squirtle squad of the defensive vehicles. They're all going to be feeding vehicles, namely tank destroyers, to Wormy. One of the reasons why he's always in one.
Yeah, love to see the kind of the coordination and not only coordination but the trust, right? Like, hey, listen, just take it all, man. You want a tank destroyer, sure, you go ahead and have one, because they know how good he has been doing. Now it does look like the attack has gone ahead and destroyed all of the defensive vehicles, right? So now we are left with, you know, the tank here that's been alive for the entirety of the game, which I'm sure the Avengers absolutely hate. They're like, how is that thing still alive? And then Mr. Wormy, of course, in the tank destroyer. So 2 vehicles for the Squirtle squad to go ahead and try to make something happen. Now, I feel like we've been on C for a very long time, but there's, you know, shout out to everybody playing on the Squirtle squad, because they have not overstepped. They haven't thrown bodies on the point. They have waited for the vehicle game to kind of play out and for them to win it. Because look how many tickets they're at right now. They're at 110. They started this push with 150. I feel like we've been here for a very long time and they only have gone down 40. So I feel like they've been kind of holding back and not necessarily throwing all of the bodies yet. They're going to wait for an opportune time to go ahead and make one of these solid pushes.
Yeah, Randy Savage got several AT4 shots in the back of that vehicle and was able to get it almost all the way down. Randy playing outside of combat while on the point, allowing his team to spawn on him, his squad. You're going to see this indicate on C1 right now. We'll see how much value they can get out of that. As C2 is fully locked down by the defense, it's going to be all C1 right now. See what they can do. Wormy, when not in the vehicle, is wielding the compound bow, because a one-shot weapon in warfare is very fun if you're good at the game. If you start missing, it's the worst. But very, very fun when you're talented. So far, so good.
An amazing thing for Wormy is, you know, ahead of the semifinals last weekend, right before we had started the show, I kind of tuned into Wormy's stream, and he was kind of, you know, he kept jumping into public matches. He was like, yeah, just give me like one more warm-up match. Like, I want to see if I like this thing. And what he was kind of talking about there was, I feel like he has recently actually adapted the bow as his choice of weapon, right? So to see how good he is with it, and he just sort of picked it up seemingly right before semifinals started last weekend, carried it into the finals now, right? He just picks up so many kills with it. So shout out to Mr. Wormy for, you know, kind of using a weapon that we do not see a lot of people use at all, but finding great success with it.
Yeah, you can see Randy playing nice and slow here, making sure his team can spawn on him on the point. This is a sacrificial play, certainly. Let's see if he's able to stay there. If you stay out of combat long enough, you all know this, then your team can spawn on you, even if you're in the danger zone, if you will. C1 almost goes to the side of the attackers. The lone soldier still on C1 is Randy Savage, laying down in the corner, hoping his team's going to be able to spawn back on him. I think it's working for him right now. He's getting a ton of value out of it and maintaining at least a little bit of pressure onto the point. But I will say Nia's blocking Warrock, Salta, that squad has been putting up crazy numbers today as well and had some really heroic plays on main. Watch out for that quad.
Yeah, finally, Randy is able to kind of step back up there, get some of the spawns kind of flowing for his squad, and they're going to make a solid push towards the capture of C1 right now. Yeah, it looks like there's definitely going to be enough attackers on this one to go ahead and secure this foothold here, as Seb's going to be, you know, getting a quick glimpse of the defense who's trying to come in from the flank, but easily going to thwart that. So now we've got 70 tickets left remaining for the Squirtle squad. They seemingly have finally captured C1, and as I say that, actually the defense is swarmed once again and started to defend it again. I don't know, this is the Avengers is they've done so much damage to the Squirtle squad I don't know if they're going to be able to win this.
Yeah, it's close. C1, another good push here from the attackers. Urgent deployment time is up, I would assume, for the attack. They are pushing aggressively over to C1, trying to get at least one of these points fully locked down with the help of their vehicle. This Nia squad is doing great work on there. But unfortunately, I don't think they're going to be able to do enough. C1 is on the side of the attackers, at least for now. But the problem is you got to capture both. And how do you do that when the defense is nearly perfect on the day? So far, not getting a ton of value on C2 right now. Just trying to maintain some sort of stability here. And they can't even get up to high ground. I can't imagine they hold C1 for long.
I'm not worried yet, right? Because this was about the tickets in the last game that we kind of saw, where the Avengers actually ended up clutching up and just barely had enough tickets left to go ahead and capture C. And with the vehicles kind of making sure that, well, I mean, the vehicles just finding value on both of the points simultaneously is awesome to kind of see right there. And hopefully it can work its way back to C2, because C2 is once again being lost. We've got to go ahead and rotate some of those bodies from C1 over to C2, but it's really, really hard because as you can see, C1 is under constant contestation from the defense.
Yeah, it's tight on both. C2 going back to the defense, though, and we're running out of lives. You're right. The attackers last time, the Avengers, when they were attacking, got it down to 20, and somebody saved up for a guided missile. Where will it land? Will it see any value at all? Can it get through one of these roofs, maybe, or play the outside of the map? It's going to land on top of C2 and do absolutely nothing besides maybe zone a couple people off from being on the point, which is going to allow a couple of the attackers to at least get some ground over there to be able to drop it into the neutral zone. If our one squad exterminia, our commander, can hold C1, if they can win a heroic gunfight on C1, our attackers could make a play on the back of that guided missile.
Yeah, it does look like the tides are turning right now. C1 seems to be under strong control right now. C2, with the vehicles getting involved, kind of running into the building right now. It is getting captured very, very fast. The guided missile did not pick up any kills, but it had the defense in a swarm. They let go a lot of the positions that they had to make sure that they did not die to it, and seemingly that was going to be the biggest fault so far for the Avengers.
Oh,
yeah, it looks like C is going to fall here for sure.
It's so close. This is nearly the exact same spot that the attackers took both points last time. They're going to be going into D if they are able to cap here with close to 80 to 90 total lives, which we know was not enough for the Avengers last time. It's about as close as it could possibly be. The defense, though, they're able to get all of these revives. They've got so many bodies on the point. They are holding on for dear lives. And Asta picks up like 7. Asta comes in with a tank and says, fine, I'll do it myself. Clears out the whole point, saving the day. Your revives mean nothing to me when I throw a tank shell into your face. All of those bodies fully wiped. And we go into points D1 and D2 with 77 lives. Just 3 less than the Avengers had to try to take both points. And we all know how that went. The Squirtle squad back against the wall. They got to make a move, and they got to get both these points extremely quickly.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting right now. It looks like the Squirtle squad has way better vehicle economy going into D than the Avengers had when they were attacking right now. It does look good potentially for the 2-0 happening right now. But of course, as we know, the Sector D is going to be the hardest one to kind of work through right now. And with C going all the way down to the very last moment, I don't know if they're going to be able to pull things out. One thing that I do like from the Avengers right now, from the defensive side of things, is that they're actually, trying to face forward. They're actually getting ahead of D1. They're going to fight a little bit for D1 right now and make the attackers work for that point. Whereas on the other side of things, in that last game, we kind of saw it concede very, very quickly.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and explain this just in case we get there. As a reminder, this is win condition for Squirtle Squad. If they win this map, if they capture both these points, Squirtle Squad are your champions in NA Finals. If they do not capture both of these, they have to at least capture D1 to tie the Avengers in terms of how far they made it, which means the final capture percentage of D2 and D1 combined at the end of the game when lives hit 0, if they do not cap, will will determine who has priority selection going into game 3, which means they can pick either side or map. So a lot of math behind the scenes and a lot of screenshots we'll have to review to make sure that we have those percentages right. But they first have to capture D1 to tie, and then it's about how much value do you have on D2 if your lives hit 0 if they just don't capture both outright.
Shout out to whoever's going to be making decisions there with those percentages if they do come down to that. And, you know, we don't get to talk a lot about the individual performances or those kind of one-off plays, but right now Seb kind of being this nuisance that is just creeping around on the point, making sure he's touching it and capturing it and just kind of ratting around to make sure that defense has something to think about.
Yeah, again, this is what we talked about last time. D1, extremely easy to take, extremely hard to hold. So whichever team has it, the best option if you're in trouble on the opposite point is to move in and just start taking this one. At the very least, give yourself breathing room. Problem is we don't have a lot of lives. 59 now and counting. Dwindling, honestly, fairly slowly for what it's worth. The attacker's doing a good job of reviving.
Yeah, the attackers are doing a great job of making sure they don't lose too many tickets right now, but they are not doing a great job of capturing D1, which was seemingly a very easy one to capture for the Avengers, right? The problem kind of became apparent on D2, but the Avengers are interested in making sure that they maintain control of the bridge right now, and Asta is going to be all the way off in the distance on the Aluru, just kind of throwing rockets in. Oh my gosh, a 4-piece.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's Swell picking up a quad. That's on Wormy, by the way. That's going to be that full Syndicate squad that was in the tank destroyer with the attackers down in a tank destroyer. This is looking grim. Now, I will say, I think another vehicle is being called in, maybe by both sides. Likely one of the last vehicles that both sides will be able to call in before this game is over. Again, if D1 is never captured by Squirtle Squad, then the Avengers will have priority selection going into game 3 if the Avengers win it here. Down to 38 lives. It's looking like that's what's going to happen. We got to at least get D1 to make it come down to the 3rd tiebreaker to determine who gets to pick for this final map of the day.
I'd be very curious if that's what the Avengers are thinking about right now, because again, they are, you know, throwing a lot of resources at D1 right now. Are they thinking about, hey, listen, we're going to go ahead and defend this, right? We were confident that we're going to defend this at some point, but defending D1 is important as ever, right? We want to have priority going into match number 3 so that they can probably, we're going to assume, pick the defense, right? Because they feel a little bit more confident on the defensive side of things. So it's working out very, very well so far. And as I say that, right, D2 is actually falling very, very fast.
Yeah, I mean, this is the nature of the game. You spend all your resources on D1, all of a sudden you could look up and D2 could be gone. If this goes into the neutral zone, this could be a nice boon here. A guided missile has been called in. I would expect this is from the defense landing on D2. I don't know. A lot of bodies from the defense have moved back to D2 to try to pick a play. Guided missile comes in, it lands on D1 and gets absolutely nothing. That's going to be attacker guided missile. They're trying to clear out D1. Yes, people backed off. Yes, they're going to be able to get bodies on the point, as everybody on the defense has moved over to D2 besides a couple lone soldiers. Another guided missile coming in with 20 lives remaining, both in jeopardy, but D1 looking like it's going to go to the attackers.
Yeah, here comes the very, very expensive streaks here. That guided missile is going to pick up one. That was another one from the attacking side, so they've got a lot of score to work with, but again, not necessarily finding the value that you would imagine that they wanted, right? D2 was going to be in the firm hands of the Avengers, and with only 15 tickets remaining for Squirtle Squad, and D1 just barely getting captured. I don't know. This one's going to be close.
All right, it's going to come down to a VOD review, folks. They've captured the same amount of points. Comes down to D2, and it comes down to 13, but the Squirtle Squad could technically win it right here. Another guided missile lands on D2, gets absolutely nobody, but what it does is it pushes everybody off of D2. The defense on their heels, but I'm seeing green light up the kill feed. They get back onto the point. Urgent deployment time. You only got 8 lives, Vivid. It's coming down to the wire, and I don't know who's going to win this one.
Yeah, incredible efforts from the Avengers. They've defended every single one of these sectors pretty well. Whenever they've lost one, they put up a good fight throughout. And all that separates them and taking this to a map 3 is those 5 tickets. But as it currently stands, they are seemingly the hardest 5 tickets that any team has ever had to go ahead and pick up, right? D1, D2, constant pressure right now. The defense is picking up D1. Big guided missile onto D2 right there. 2 tickets remaining. Hold your respawn, Squirtle Squad. That's going to be down to 0 right there. The Avengers, in a nail-biting fashion, go ahead and pull out the defense to go ahead and tie things up on Trainwreck.
Oh my goodness, that was insane. Another nail biter. Back-to-back guided missiles, by the way, one from the defense, one from the attack side. The defense actually picked up a... Welcome back to the Delta Force Global League Season 3 Warfare NA Finals. We are moving into Game 3 because, well, it was a trading of blows, Vivid. And here's a quick look at the overall leaderboard from Game 2. Mr. Wormy, what are we talking about, brother? 115 in a customs? In an esports tourney? Good grief.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. it's crazy. We might be able to, at the end of this, just count his kills from game 1 and game 2, and he still might get top slayer if we don't count his game 3 at this point. He is seemingly so far ahead of everybody else, putting up such a great individual performance when it comes down to picking up those kills. Of course, we do know that a lot of those kills are coming from the vehicle, and on top of that, hit the rest of his squad, whether it be Zen, Randy, or Chick Boom. They're kind of always on that engineer role, helping him out in that regard. But yeah, getting the credit for 115 in game number 2 is absurd. Other thing that we always love to look at for sure is going to be the revives, right? I feel like Foxilla, once again, definitely has the most revives. I believe that was the case for game number 1 as well. Yeah. So looking like top medic in that regards. But towards the attacking side of things, it was actually very, very close, right? 2 of the attacking players over there in the 70s. And, you know, we kind of talked about how we saw that the tickets were going down very, very slow during a lot of those attacks. We knew there must have been a ton of revives coming out, and the leaderboard shows just that.
Yeah, again, this is really well done. I mean, this is comp level play. You got to go for revives if you're on the attacking side. So, of course, you see really high numbers. Excited to see, of course, the overalls as well. But individually, of course, Wormy puts up just insane kills. Now, again, expected to some degree because he's basically getting fed vehicles, but still making so much value out of the vehicles that he is being fed by the team to be able to put up this amount of kills, triple digits in a customs. Yes, it went the distance, it went to the final moment, but ridiculous totals. And so really impressive there. Across the board, again, Syndicate, pretty high numbers, but Just Chill, also a pretty strong squad on the attacking side. The Squirtle squad, the defense, like you shouted out, several individuals are putting up great numbers as well. Looney Tunes, one of the top teams there inside the top 4, with 2 players inside the top 4 together. 24, 22 kills in total, but a lot of assists as well. So some fun stats, but I got to take a look at the overall, and then I'm excited to see what the final selections are from our team as well. Here's a look at the overall. Now, this is interesting, Vivid, for honestly, frankly, a couple reasons. One, Squirtle Squad has put up over 1 million score, which is on the back of Wormy and many others, and they put up over 140 more kills, 146 to be exact, more kills than their opponents. However, I'm getting word the Avengers got the priority selection. They got a hair further in capture percentage on D1 and D2 at the very end of the game, so they will be able to pick whether they want to choose a side or if they want to choose the map to start things off. We don't know what they've picked yet, but Vivid, the Avengers technically on top, therefore having a small advantage.
Yeah, cool to see that they are going to be going with what we would kind of expect them to go with, right? Of course, in the semifinals last weekend, we did have a team kind of go ahead and opt to choose the map outside of the side. Avengers getting the advantage when it comes down to the side. Of course, now Squirtle Squad will be able to choose the map that they are going to prefer.